Hello everyone, welcome to Study Automation. In this tutorial, I will show you how to use JWT token through Node.js. We will also see how we can create JWT token and use it. Here is a website jwt.io, and in this website you can even verify the generated token that you have created. So for that you can see we have to select algo, and then you can just pass here your JWT token. It will decode you basically the header, payload, and verify signature, other stuff. So we can see how we can do through Node.js application. So for that we can just open command prompt and make sure that Node.js is installed in our system. So for that I will write here node-v. It should give us the Node.js version. Then also we will check npm-v. Mostly when you install Node.js, npm should be installed. So let's check this one as well. After that I'll just move to my desktop, and here I will create a new folder. So I'll say mkdir JWT token API. JWT token app. And after that I'll just move to this folder, and then we have to initialize npm or Node.js, and for that I will write npm init-y and click enter. So it will, y means it will not ask you anything, it will just create basic package.json file. And after that what we have to do, we can just open this project inside Visual Studio Code. So I'll just write here code dot right. So if you see, we have opened this project inside Visual Studio Code, and in our project right now we have only one file, which is package.json. So now I will go to three dots, terminal, new terminal, and now we have to install Express.js. Then we have to install JSON Web and other necessary packages. So for that what we have to write, we can just say npm install, and then we can say express. This is one thing that we need. Then we need JSON Web Token. Then we have to encrypt and decrypt. For encryption we use bcrypt.js. bcrypt.js. Then we need body parser for Express.js. So these all things we need, body parser and this. So we can install all in one line. Click enter. Now it's saying install. Okay. So it will take few seconds and these things will be installed. Right. So after that, if you go and check your package.json file, you will see that we have bcrypt installed, body parser installed, express installed, and then JSON Web Token is also available and installed. As well as you will see we have node package, node module is also available, and then package log.dat file is also available. So package log is wherever you update any dependency, it creates package log, as well as node module. So now after that we need to create following 4 files for our project. So I'll just click here create new file, and first file I will create is server.js, This is one thing where we will write code. Then another thing, we will write config.js where we will put our secret key. Then we have to create routes. So I'll say we have to first create one folder. I'll say route, and inside this folder I will create one file, and which file is auth.js. Then I will also create another file which is middleware, and that should be available in our one of the folder. I'll say middleware, and middleware, inside middleware I will add auth.js. So now I have created all the 4 different files that is needed for our project. So let's start with writing server.js file, and this server.js will be our entry point. So in our package.json, if you'll see, our main file is index, so I will change to server.js, and then we can come to server.js, and here we can say const express equal to require express. So first thing we need, that is express, and for this express we can just say app equal to express. So we have created app, then we can say app.use, and inside this we can provide our path URL. So I'll say API/auth. This is our first, and then we have to provide routes. So we can say auth routes. So now this auth routes we have to create. As of now this is not available, so I'll just copy here and paste it. Const auth routes equal to, I'll say require dot routes and then /auth. So basically this route and auth will be available here. This will be called as auth route. Whenever we will use our API, it should go into this directory, this path, and after that, once we have created it, then we can say port. So I'll say const port equal to, so if we will set process.env dot port, if this is available then we can use it, else we can simply say just use port number 3000, and then we have to start app.listen, and in this app.listen we can just say port and then comma, we have to just use a method, and inside this I can say console.log app server is running on port, and here we can just provide port number, right? So for that I just need to change to ~1. Yeah, so app is running on port, then whatever port it is, it will show that. Now everything is okay. The only thing is we can also include here body parser, which we have not included. So ideally we should just call const body parser equal to require body parser, and usually we add here app dot so it will automatically take that, right? Just let it be here. No, we can just say app.use, and here we can say body parser.json. Okay. So now our server.js file is completed. We have to go and write code for auth route, and as well as we have to put our data inside config. So inside this config, what we can do, we have to just write module.exports, and here we can say equal to secret. And in this secret, we have to just pass our own secret key. So I'll say my key, right? Anything it could be, right? So my key, and this key we can just mention here inside secret key. Save it. So this config file is also done. Server is also done. Just I need to go and write code for auth. So in this auth.route, this is our main file. So I'll go here in auth, and here we can just start writing route. So for the same, we can just copy here. I'll say express. Let's go and paste it. We need first express, and for this express, I'll say const router equal to express dot router. So we have used router, and then we will use this one. So before that, so in this router, what we need to do is we can say router dot we have post, right? So post method, and here I'll create our first post method, which is I'll say register, right? Register or registration, whatever thing you want, you can put here. And then I'll say we have request, then I'll say response, and this request response we will send here, right? Let's make it async, so I'll just say async request and response, and in this request response we just need to get the request response, I mean username password from req.body. So I'll say const username password, and this one we can get from req.body. So inside request body we have to send username and password, and after getting the username and password, what we have to do, we have to encrypt this password, and to encrypt password we have to use bcrypt, and for that we can say const bcrypt equal to require, and here I'll pass bcrypt.js file. This is one thing we can check. Another thing is also we need JWT, so I'll say JWT equal to require, and here I'll say JSON Web Token, JSON Web Token. Okay, inside single quote JSON Web Token, and then bcrypt JWT token. Also we need config, so I'll say const config equal to require, and I'll say /config. Then we also need middleware, so I'll say const auth middleware equal to require, and this one is also /. We can go in middleware /auth. So these all 5 things that we need to import in our route auth file. After that, we have just created here, we have just get username and password. Then what we need to do next is we can register it. So I'll say bcrypt dot hash, and here we can say first parameter should be password, second parameter should be salt. So salt is where you want the decryption things, right? So to generate salt length, to generate the, so basically we have to pass the length, password and then length. After passing it, it will return hashed password. So I'll say const hash hashed password equal to this. So we get the hashed password. I'll just try to console it. So I'll say right. Next thing is what we have to do. Either we can use database to store username or password, or what we can do, we can simply create here one temporary in-memory database or in-memory array to store that. So I'll say const users equal to empty. So here initially this is empty user, in-memory database we can say, and we can just put our currently created username password here. So I'll say user dot push, and here we can just push here username. So whatever username we get, and then hashed password. So we will not store actual password, we can just store hashed password. And for this hashed password I'll say, so basically we can store in this way, username colon this, and then I'll say password colon this. So our key will be username and password, and this is the value. So username and password we have stored here. Then what we need to do next is we can just send the response. So in res dot status, and here we can say 201 which is created dot send, and here we can say inside send we can send the message. So I'll say message equal to user registered successfully. So user registered successfully, this message we can send to user. So as of now we have not implemented middleware, so let's try to run it since auth is not available right now. So I just try to see whether we are getting user registered successfully or not. So to run it we can simply go and say node and then server.js. Alright, so we are getting this error, router.use require middleware function but got an object. Okay, so if you go here in auth dot, so middleware we have not written anything. In auth we created router, but we are not exporting it. So we can say module dot exports equal to router, and then let's try to run again. So you can see app is running on port number 3000. So I will now open Postman, and here I'll say http colon / localhost colon 3000, and then after that we have to use our routes. So I'll say API / auth / register. So if you will go here and see the route part, so we have path is API auth. So we have to reach to API auth, API/auth, and after that, once we go inside route, we will get register. So this register I'll copy and paste it here. So this is our method should be post. As we can see here that we are using post method, and in body we have to pass username and password. So for that we have to go here and inside body I'll select raw type, and here we can say username and password. So for that I'll say username, and here I'll say any username. So I'll just say this is my username, and then I'll say comma, and here we have password. So first time we have to supply username password. So I'll say test@123, and then we can just select here body type as JSON, click send. So it's saying user registered successfully. I'll go here in console and wanted to see if any error is there. So we get error at bcrypt. So hash password object is promised. So we have to use here await. Right? So we are not using await since this is async function. So we should wait for it. Let's run again. Now I'll go again and then try to send same message. Alright, yes. So now this is our input @123 and test@123, and then let's click send. So we can see user successfully registered. Let's go here and check. So if you see now, password is test and hashed password is this one. So it generated our hash bcrypt hash key. So now since the user is now registered, we have added inside this user folder. Before that, also other thing we can check, if username is empty, then it should say that username or password required, right? So those kind of validation we can perform here. For example, we can just say if username is empty or password is not available, right? In this case, what we can say, we can just return the message, return res dot status, and here we can say status 400 dot send, and inside this we can send message, and message should be username and password is required. So these kind of messages we can pass if username and password is empty. And after that we have just hashed it, we printed the hash code, then we have pushed it to user, and then we are sending it back. Even we can do that if user is already exist, then we should also send a message, right? So after checking null, we can also check here. So I'm just removing password and hashed password. So after, before going to register it, right, we can also check if user is already available or not. So for that I'll say user, let's say I'll say const existing user equal to, so we have users dot, I'll say find, and inside this find we can just find the user. So I'll say user dot username, and if it is equal to the username that we are passing, right, then that means we get here some value, and if we get some value, if existing, if we have some value, that means there is some problem, we should return to the user that user is already registered. So user, I'll say user is already registered, right? So this message we can see. So let's send here. Let's check again. So now first we can check if I'll not pass username or password, right? So in this case, let's just anything you can remove. So suppose if I'll just remove here username itself, let's click send. We can say username and password is required. Let's put back. I'll just click send. It will say user is registered. Now if I'll send again, then it will say user is already registered. The same username is already registered. So these kind of validations we have now done here inside register API endpoint. The next part that we need to do is to generate the JWT and other stuff. So suppose now user is registered and we wanted to log in for that register, right? So how we will do that? So for that we have to use another route which is called login route, and for that login route I'll just copy the first line. So I'll say this one will be login, and it's also post method async. So after that we can also get the username and password, and if it's blank then we can say username and password is not empty, is required. So after registration we also need to first time pass the username and password, right? And then we can validate other things. So now we need to find the existing user, right? So for existing user I'll just copy this. If existing user exists, so in this case existing user should be there. But suppose if existing user is not there, then we just need to send a message. So in this case we just need to put here not symbol, that if this is empty then we have to say user not found, user is not registered. So here we were saying user is already registered, but in this case we will say user is not registered. So kindly register user first and then try to log in. So these kind of validations now we have done. After that we just need to check whether the given password is correct or not. And for that what we have to do is I'll say const is valid password, and for that I will say await bcrypt dot compare. We have compare function where first part we have to pass is the actual password that user is sending now. So I'll say password, and then another one is hashed password. So hashed password how we will get? From the existing user. So I'll say existing user dot password. So if both will match, then we can say that user is registered, else we just need to throw some message to user. So I'll say is valid password. So suppose if it's not valid, then we have to say 400, and then we have to say that password is invalid, right? Password is invalid password, something like that. We can just send the message. If that is also done, then what we have to do, we can create here token, so that going forward whenever we will make any call, user has to supply the same message. So I'll say const token equal to JWT, right? JWT, and for that we have to enable this one JWT. I'll just use enable this one also. So we can say JWT dot, and in this JWT I'll say sign, and we need to pass here username equal to the user that we have. So I'll say existing user dot username. We have get from the array that we created here. So from this array we just need to we have get this user. We can say username dot existing user dot name, and then so first parameter is username, Second parameter is we have to pass secret key. So I'll say config.secrets that we have set here inside configs. This is my secret key. So I have added here this secret key inside this. So username, then secret key. And after that, we can also provide expired time. So I'll say here, comma, and then we can say expired in, right? So now expired in, here you have to write the time. So I'll say 1h, that means this password should expire in 1 hour. So these few things we need to enter here, and after that what we can do, we can just send resp response dot send, and here we can just say token, right? So from the response we will get token. So let's save it and try to run again. So I'll just start server. Now let's go first register it. So I'll say send, user is registered. So now I will use the same username password for our next API, so which is login. So I'll just copy, paste here. I'll say login, and in this one body should be the same, else it will say that user is not exist or password is not correct. Let me copy this again and select as JSON. So username and password is same, so I'll just click send, and method type should be post. So let's send again. So we can see that we get here JWT token, right? This is our JWT token. That means going forward, any communication that we need to do with our API, we have to supply this one. And if I copy it, let's go to JWT, and here in this JWT we can check, right? So if you see this one, I'll just replace it with mine. It will say that we are using algo type, right? Then username is this, expire time this, right? So these all things, mostly you will get here username, and based on username we get again the password and match it, right? So these things we get from here. So first part is header, second part is payload data, third part is checksum or signature for that one. So these kind of thing we can do here. Now next thing that we can do, we get here our token. We can use it since our application is already running, right? So if we stop, then we have to perform again all the things. Now next thing that we need to do is to check another API point, right? Which we want to check, right, whether that is working or not. So I'll say app router dot, let's say I'll say get any API that we want to call. So I'll say here /test, right? So this API should not be accessible if we will not pass JWT token. So I'll say test, and here inside this we can say async, although in this one async is not required, but let's put that. So I'll say request, then response, and here we can just say that resp.send, and if it's accessible then we can simply send the message that this is this API endpoint is protected by JWT. So if we are able to access, that means it's working fine, there is no issue. So right now we have not added any protection here. If I will run, this one should be accessible. So if I'll just close it and run again, and we'll check whether test is accessible or not. So I'll just copy, let's go here in another tab, paste it. I'll just say test. This is get method, run it. So you can see this API endpoint is protected by JWT, although right now it's not protected. So to make it protected, we have to pass another middleware here, and that is called auth. So we have to enable it. So whatever URL you want to protect, you have to enable auth middleware, and then here you can pass auth middleware comma this. So now in each API that you want protected, you have to have to add auth middleware. Any name you can put, but this is protected now. Although we have to write code here inside middleware, so we can go inside auth middleware, it's blank, but this is how we will write. So now in auth middleware, what we have to do, first thing we have to write here is const JWT equal to required, and then here I'll say JWT token. This is one thing. Another thing that we need is config, so I'll say const config equal to require, and here I will pass /config. So these two things we have get, and then after that we have to create here function. So I'll say auth middleware, and in this function we need request and then response, and then after that next, because this is a middleware. So after passing these three things, we can just write code to get the required headers. So for that I'll say const auth header, or let's put just header equal to request dot header, and in this request we need here authorization. So I'll say authorization. So this is the mandatory keyword that we should pass, authorization, and then after that I'll say console.log. For now, just wanted to check what output we get here, header, and after that we have to just say module.exports equal to auth middleware. We just need to complete this, but I'm just trying to check whether we are getting header authorization or not, and how we will do this. So for that we have to go here in our postman. This is get method, but inside authorization we have to select here bearer, right? So we have to use bearer token, and then we just need to pass here token. So I'll say for now anything I'll just pass. So this thing we can pass, or you can go in parameter, I mean header, and manually you can do that. So manually also you can provide. So this is called hidden, but if you click in, you will see that it should add those things. So you can see authorization, bearer, and this value, right? This is what we entered here, ABCD, right? So I'll just say test token, right? So this data will automatically come inside here. So bearer test token, it's already hidden, but we have this thing. Now if I will click send, although it will just say we are not returning anything, but if you will see bearer test token, right, from here we should return, right, something, that whether it's working or not working, right? So we have to redirect from here itself. That's why it's not working right now, but the token we get. So next thing that we need to do here is we get the header. I'll just say that in header we have bearer. So what we have to do, first we have to check if header is empty, right? If header is not there, right, we should send some message. So I'll say return resp.status, and in this status we can say 401 unauthorized, right? And then we can say send, and here we can just say message, right? So I'll say message equal to access denied, right? We can say access denied, no token provided. Any message you can just say that if token is not there, we can just say this message. After that, suppose if token is available, then we need to get actual token. So I'll say const token equal to, we have header dot, I'll say replace replace, and what we need to replace, this bearer, right? So we just need to replace this bearer and then one space with blank, so that this part will be replaced and then actual token we will get. Now after getting the actual token, we need to verify that, right? So we can say const decoded token equal to JWT dot verify, and here we have inside verify we can first pass token, and then second is config dot secret. This should match with this one. That's why this secret is important part, so that no one can crack this. And after that we get decoded one. We can just say req dot user equal to decoded, right? So this decoded means this is the complete user. I'll say decoded user, right? So I'll pass here, and then the next thing that we have to do is next, and here we can just call the next method. So this is what we need to write. But suppose if we get something while decoding, right, then how we will handle it? So what we can do, we can pass here, we can write here try, and inside try block we can put these things, and in catch block we can just say, if we have any error we can just say that return response.status 400, because this is bad request, and here we can say any message that is invalid token, right? So if token is not valid, then we can send this message invalid token. Rest other things are fine. So let's check now again. So now app is running. Let's go here, and I'm just passing test token. Let's send it. So it's saying invalid token. Now we need proper token. For that I have to register it. So I'll say register. User is registered. Now go to login, and here if I'll send, we will get another token. This token we have to copy, and we'll go here, paste it. This is our JWT token. Now click send. API endpoint protected by JWT, right? It's working. Let's say if I'll change something here and send invalid token. So this is how usually we write our JWT application, JWT authentication things we are doing. In each API endpoint you have to provide auth middleware, just to make sure that this API should be protected by JWT. For example, in login and register we are not providing, but we should provide in this for all other APIs we have to pass. So I hope you are able to get this, and I will try to upload it in GitHub repository so that you can get the code. Thank you so much for watching the video. Do like, subscribe the channel.